Okay. Welcome to Heartistry. This is Farah Yasmeen Shaikh, and today I have another brilliant artist that we just heard a little bit about joining us. She is based in Karachi, Pakistan, and please join me in welcoming Taabir Noorani.
Hello, hello. I don't know when to start talking.
You are absolutely perfectly timed. And I have to, of course, just call out because before we started recording, had to see if we had any connection. I just said your name, Tabir Noorani. And Noorani, for those who know, is the name of my nonprofit organization, of which the dance is very much at the heart of. And it's also my birth name. So I, of course, had to check to see, do we have any relations? We couldn't find any right now, but we will continue to research that and see. But either way, I always love meeting a fellow Nurani. So it's great to be in conversation with you.
So nice to meet you also. I don't meet a lot of Iranis often.
Yeah. No, and that's why I'm almost surprised we're not related. So we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
find some connection. And in fact, we already have. Well, I would love to. The beautiful thing about these conversations, and I should also just qualify that the way I came to know of your work is you have done some work with a dear friend, former guest on Heartistry, somebody I hope to be collaborating with artistically sometime in the near future, and that is with Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Jr. And you know, he's a dear friend, like I said, and anybody that he works with, of course, piques my curiosity because good people attract good people. So we're certainly going to touch on that as well. But what I'd love to do, Tavir, is to really just hear about your origin story. We heard a little in your intro, but anything you'd like to share about your personal family history?
That is a super hard question because I don't think it's that interesting. So we talked about some family origin in the beginning, which was just that I feel like everybody in the subcontinent has some, like, they always have something about the war, the first one and the second
Hmm.
one, and all of that.
Yeah.
So technically in Pakistan, I'd be considered a Mahajir. Um, because my family, both sides, my mom and my dad, they both originated from Kathiawar in India.
Yeah.
And originally, both families actually, as far as I know, moved to Bangladesh, but they migrated then to Pakistan during the war at different times when I don't know how much I'm supposed to censor it, but when there was a genocide basically from our
Yeah.
end to Bangladesh.
Yeah,
But
no, I think it's important to name it. I don't think people do enough about that war.
I think it's very cancelable in Pakistan though. Sorry, I hit the mic. I think it's very cancelable in Pakistan to say that though, but we were wrong. But yeah, so we ended up moving to Pakistan, where since again everyone was dying in Bangladesh. And my mom ended up being born in Pakistan, but my dad, I believe, was already in Bangladesh and moved here as a child.
Okay.
So then my mom was born in Karachi and I was also born in Sindh. So here we are. Um,
Okay.
when I was like two, we moved to the States. We moved to Texas.
Okay.
And when I was 16, we moved back to
Oh,
Karachi.
wow. Okay. Where were you in Texas?
I was in Dallas.
Okay.
Lots, lots of Pakistanis in Dallas.
Yes, yes, and Houston for that matter. Yeah. But so I mean 16 is a very, you know, it's a pivotal time for any young person, I think, regardless of where you're living. But what was it, if you don't mind me asking, that took you back to Pakistan at that time?
Honestly, it was just a mixture of like family because my grandmothers were getting old and
Yeah.
also just having trouble with immigration, to be honest.
Ah,
We're on an E2 visa and it
okay.
does not lead to citizenship, not people
Yeah.
don't know that either.
Yeah, no, again, I appreciate you being transparent about that. But these are truths that obviously impact our lives. And how are you feeling about that transition back then? Do you have vivid memory of it?
I do. It was
Yeah.
not pretty because, teenagers already
Yeah.
think that their parents don't understand them, and they're angry, and so I was like, oh my God, like they're shipping me back to a third world country. Like, why? Like a Muslim third world country. But I had a dog at the time. I still have him, but I ended up agreeing to moving back without like um losing my mind, because we were able to bring my dog back also.
Well, that's beautiful. That is a comfort to say the least. Yeah. No, and I mean the teenage thing. Yes, I've been there, been one, and I'm raising one. So, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And so
Eventually.
you moved back to Karachi specifically.
Yes.
Okay. And how was not only leaving the States, but how was that integration? I mean, you had left Pakistan. I assume you had been to visit in between.
Hadn't.
Oh, you had not. Okay, so that's an even huge, bigger impact and jump. So tell us about that experience.
It was really strange here because I didn't quite understand other children or other kids of my age, right? Everybody just
Mm,
seemed so mean and unwelcoming. Like I
mm,
remember really not having much of a social life in school, to be honest. So like in America, we were told to speak in Urdu at home to
mm,
not lose language. But when I got to Pakistan, of course, my Urdu had a little bit of an accent, right? Like I had a little bit of an American accent. So
sure.
for kids, it wasn't about what I was saying, it was about how I was saying it. My English was too American, my Urdu was too American, so I just kind of stopped talking for the most
Wow.
part.
Yeah.
Until I found a job very early on when I was 16 or 17
Oh,
also.
wow. Which
And
is
that
not common,
in
in
Pakistan, not at all.
Pakistan. Yeah.
So that allowed me to grow and turn into a more confident person, because school life was not it for me, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and take our first pause right there. That's perfect. Welcome back to Heartistry. This is Farah Yasmeen Shaikh, and today we are in conversation with Taabir Noorani and hearing a little bit about your childhood, which is a unique one at that. Having been born in Pakistan, moving to the States, living there through much of your teenage years, moving back to Pakistan at the age of 16, and yeah, traversing this new dynamic of all the things. And you mentioned you were sort of finding your stride, it sounds like, once you started working. And then how, again, as we heard in your bio, you're an artist. How did that come to be? Were seeds planted in your childhood?
Honestly, I always like did art, right? Like as a child. Um, it was my favorite subject. It was my favorite thing to do after school, even when I was a little kid. When I came here, I actually continued to do a little bit of work. I was already interested in charity and in helping whoever I could. So I had
Mhm.
done it, started with a campaign for this farm animal sanctuary back in America, in
Oh,
Iowa.
okay.
Um, so I'd sent them a couple of paintings of their pets, like their rescues, to then auction off for their animals and whatnot.
Yeah.
Not a kid. Um, from there, it just was art for myself, and then I would leave it, and then art again, and then sometimes I would get work. And just recently, in the past couple of years, have I started really taking it seriously again? And I
Okay.
love it.
Amazing. And, I have to, a little side note, but I kind of feel like it's another moment of possible connection. You should know, at least in my sphere of Nouranis, there's a lot of artists. Yes, I'm a dancer by profession, but my father's sister was amazing, painter, sketching. She even used to do charcoal another cousin of my father's painter, some of my cousins. There's one in India that's an actor. So who knows? See, there's that Noorani artistic gene.
Oh,
An
yeah.
aunt that I'm very close with in Karachi itself, she's grown up dancing and it's still very artistic and dances time to time. So see, I think it's in our genes.
That's insane. I actually didn't know. Like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. And so did you the interest was there and you mentioned you did start taking some classes and such?
I actually I didn't really take any
Okay,
classes in art, but I meant like in school, the basic
got it.
school.
Yes, yes. Okay. So
Outside of that,
every
not college or anything, unfortunately, but
okay. Okay. Well, I mean, now here you are. You're an artist and you're a yogi. And so talk about define that a little bit more, if you will. Um, what is your artistic practice to date?
this is really hard because I'm like in that phase of life still where I'm
Okay.
just trying to figure everything out. It's really weird. Everyone is multifaceted, everyone has multiple hobbies and passions. I mean, people are lucky to even be able to do one regularly in life, right? But to be able to
True.
pursue all of them in adult life, is just like I said, the humanitarian thing, I've always wanted to do it. I keep coming back to
Mm,
that. And then the art I would keep coming back to, and the yoga I would keep coming back to. And I just keep trying to figure out how to put it all together. You know?
yeah.
How can I do all of it? And is there any way to then link them up? So currently, the art and the humanitarian work do go well together, right? Like that exhibition with Zulfikar is an example. The Iowa Farm Sanctuary is an example. I've done work with ACF. Yoga, on the other hand, I've decided to be a little bit easier on myself with that. I do it for myself first, but when I
Mm,
when I get that calling to then share that practice with others and make a difference with others, then I'll
yeah.
teach classes for that month or 2 months or 1 year or whatever it is. So I think
Right.
that's right now.
I love it. And I think that there are so many points that should be reinforced there. I think one, that humans are multifaceted. And so too often we sort of define ourselves by one thing. And almost even if there is another interest, you sort of put it on the side and don't actually include that in your identity, right? And so I think it's really important when we can say, no, all of these parts of us create the total sum, right?
Yeah.
So that's it's priceless to be able to have that value in yourself and all of your interests, your skills, etc. um, and the humanitarian work, I love that tie-in. And how do you identify sort of when you do want to work with somebody or support a particular cause? How does that come to be with your art and that humanitarian related work?
I think for projects I choose, man, I feel like it's anything with animals and the environment. I
Mm,
I do like helping people as well, but I feel like I scratch that itch with teaching yoga in a way. But animals, like in Pakistan especially, like
yeah.
it's just so cruel what they go through. They don't have a voice and they don't have any free will. They're not evil. They're not good or evil. They just are. And I wish there was more we can do. Even with Zulfikar's thing, I remember telling him that I just feel like nothing is ever enough. He educates people about the river, he educates people about the dolphins, and it makes a little bit of headway, like, 2 steps forward. And then you hear about somebody like torturing a dolphin, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
How much can I do? With ACF, Aisha, she has such severe compassion fatigue, because she's been doing this, I think, for 10
Yeah.
years now,
I think
actively
so.
saving animals. And every day she hears about somebody doing something, going out of their way to be cruel to an animal. Um, so I just feel like it's never enough. So as soon as I see any sort of project where my artwork can do anything, I jump in. Even if they don't ask me, I'm like, please, like I'll do anything. Just let me help.
Mm.
So that's how Zulfikar and me got connected also. I'm so glad he included me in that. Um, I'm trying to see how far it can go. There's somebody else actually, another organization. Have you heard of Fearless?
I'm not.
I think Zulfikar is actually on the panel also, but
Okay.
they're something that I've always wanted to do, but I was never able to form this as an idea, and they formed it.
Okay.
They're a huge association of women and queer uh, people that are basically they're activists, but they do it in combination with art. So they
Okay.
sponsor artists once a year, I believe. They take them on a trip for all over South Asia. There's a whole training program, and then they help you
That's
create
so
a giant
amazing.
mural in your city about whatever thing that you're, being an activist for. So
Yeah.
people,
Oh, amazing.
yeah. I feel
Oh,
like
that's
there's way better people to like bring on your podcast doing much bigger things.
no, there are many, and you are one of them. But yes, let's go ahead and take our second pause here. Welcome back to Heartistry. This is Farah, and today we are in conversation with Taabir Noorani and hearing about sort of your approach using your art as a medium, to support various causes. Essentially, if one of the terms that I use is it's sort of a spin-off of heartistry, but heartivism, the idea of heart, art, and activism. As we see many artists kind of, in the best way, in the most authentic way they can, using their art to bring about positive social change and or as a medium of activism. Often those things are intertwined, to say the least. And so when you do work with somebody in that sort of capacity, and like you said, whether they approach you or you proactively are like, I want to support, I want to get involved, what does that look like from, what how is it that you will get involved?
Um, I feel like I mean sometimes it's not even art related, right? Like
Mm-mm.
sometimes you just need people. So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of times where I just get involved because I want to. And then whatever they need help with, I mean, I remember ACF had a flood a few years ago, and I was literally just gathering volunteers to go and clean up and get the water out. No artwork and
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's a lot of that. I mean, something I would love to do with Zulfikar, but I cannot because I don't speak Sindhi, is go on his traveling like education program and stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like when it comes to helping out and humanitarian work and activism, you don't have to be qualified, and in those instances I feel like we should be a little bit looser if we can with what we want to do, and just do what's needed. But ideally,
Mm.
and if I can, I would love to be more active in my own way. I'm still trying to figure out how that looks, but I want to bring um a sense of, like, for instance, in America and Canada and places like that, of course there's bad people everywhere, but people care about their neighborhood, and they care about their city, and they care about how things look, and people just care. Here, you could argue that it's because the people are just trying to survive. Like the quality of life is very low here, that's why
Mm.
people can't care. But I do want to make some changes in terms of the more you care, the more things will overall get better, right? You are society and I am society. Like we have to do it together if our government cannot for
Right,
any
100%. I mean, it's here, there, it's there's something in us as humans. I have found, this is my own observation perspective, is that, even just take your bedroom, your space. If it's very messy, your life feels cluttered, and it takes a lot of energy to get out of the mental and the physical, right? But if you are taking care, even our bodies, right? If we are sleeping well, eating well, getting, healthy amounts of movement, exercise, generally it becomes very reciprocal, right? So it's like when we say we are what we eat, we are what we blah blah blah. So it's, and yes, there is something to be said about, does one have the resources to XYZ? So I certainly acknowledge that for what that's worth. But you'll see the same people that have a very, very clean home when they're out and about. If they go somewhere where there's litter, I'll see people traveling to other countries, and again, their home will be spotless. But when they go to somebody else's country, essentially somebody else's home, um, they'll litter, and they would never have littered in the US. So,
Yeah.
one, shame on them, and two, we just absorb sometimes subconsciously an environment that doesn't have the same degree of attention, to certain things. And so we just act in a very different way. And so I wish we could, figure out ways to get out of these states of inertia in some ways, and within our means, make it work for us. And
Yeah.
there are plenty of people that do it, but I so appreciate what you're saying. And that's just sort of been my observation, and the traps that we often put ourselves in. Right.
Mm.
So,
It's
yeah.
very hard. I just don't know. Like sometimes it's very discouraging because you just don't know where to start, right? Because it's not we as I mean the people that are doing so much work, a lot of them are having to just constantly put out fires. There's just so many fires to put out
Yeah.
that we don't know where to start in, because we have to backtrack and then see the
Yeah.
source of it, which is mentality, and then where to start there, because it's oftentimes generations of molding, and I don't know, it's very
Yeah.
hard. I have a lot of respect for people who have managed to do anything really in this
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah. Well, Tabir, you mentioned, in some information you shared with me, that you, again, with your art and yoga, you did even say in our conversation, yoga is something first and foremost you're doing for yourself. But even when that has become more of a business, um, even if there's, ebbs and flows of when and how that shows up for you, um, you mentioned just challenges doing work of that nature in Pakistan. And I would love to just explore that a little bit more, because, again, I think it's very important in conversations such as this to somewhat demystify as well as to call out. And so anything, you mentioned about like just having to be overly cautious about being in an environment, in a society where women are perceived certain ways and things of that sort. Anything that you can speak to, I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth.
So being a yogi in Pakistan, actually being in the fitness industry in
Mm,
general, that was actually my first job when I was 16 or 17. Um, the women that would get the most success were the women who willingly or unwillingly had to um, basically present themselves in certain ways.
mm,
For instance, right now, again, these are things I don't know why people don't talk about publicly, but they'll talk about it in closed rooms and parties and
mm,
stuff like that.
yeah.
For instance, most of the gyms in Karachi that are very popular, it's very well known that they'll hire influencers, but slash escorts for the gym, or the women have to dress a certain way and they're paid to do so. So then
Mm,
if you look at a girl who's not wanting to do that, she really just doesn't get the same level of success. And it's not all gyms. There are some that are amazing, and I love it. There's Core, the one I go to for any Pakistanis listening. Hydro is
mm,
great. Everyone's great. Family friendly gyms. But I'm talking about the general, like, commercial gym. Same
mm,
with yoga and stuff. Yoga has cleaned up quite a bit. Being a yogi here it's changed so much in a good way
Mm,
now because men and women both, people are having so much trouble with the world nowadays, that people are looking for some spiritual healing and people are looking for a little bit of peace and understanding. So now yoga classes are starting to fill up with people who are very, very serious about their journeys, you know. Um,
mm,
you still find some horrible people just coming in because, you know, they see a woman in shorts or in yoga pants and she's stretching and that's hot, but which
mm,
really sucks. I actually started teaching, so movement is also a form of art to me. So I taught
mhm.
aerial for a while. There's a yogi here that installed a pole in his house, and he was teaching pole dancing, and I loved that, and
Oh,
so empowering
awesome.
and so amazing because I've been loving the aspect of femininity and embracing that and embracing the way our bodies move in a way that's not sexual. It's like
Yeah.
it's just feminine, you know?
Mm.
And I remember it was to the point where we just couldn't share it anymore, you know? It's like your own little yoga speakeasy, you're doing pole in a small like basement, never tell anyone.
Yeah, yeah. No, and again, I think that's the interesting I think just the current landscape, if you will, that, those in your generation, and I am significantly older, and yet I'm sort of in this in between, and possibly also looking from the outside in, but feeling a sense of connection to a place like Pakistan. And it is this very interesting thing where there is so much more that one can access. And the irony is there's still this ceiling, that you kind of keep butting your head up against. And so what I think is phenomenal is that people such as yourself are trying to navigate and traverse it. And it is not easy. And you're trying to find ways to make, in quotes, it. And it is a very sweeping generalization. It can be so many things. Make it work. It's not fair that it's not easier. It should be, but I think that there is a real interesting turning point, um, brewing. And some will say, no, 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 things are never going to change. Maybe there's heightened awareness, but things are never going to change. Maybe I'm a serial optimist, and that can be a toxic trait at times too. But yeah, it's palpable even for somebody, like I said, who has the connection and can see it both within and from the outside. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, please.
want to make are we doing the pause? I don't know.
Yes, we
But
probably should. Let's take a quick pause and then come in, but hold your thought because I could tell you had one. Welcome back to Heartistry. This is Farah Yasmeen Shaikh speaking today with Taabir Noorani, who is in Karachi, Pakistan. And Taabir, you had a thought.
I
Please.
did. Were, we were talking about will things ever change or will they stay the same? I personally have lost hope a few times, but I have this friend here. His name is Hamza, and he started a the electronic music revolution here, and
Okay.
he basically he's been shut down by the cops. He has had people like arguing with him, and he's been like, it's not about drugs, it's about the art, it's about the music, it's
Right.
about people in Karachi having places to dance and have fun and all of that. And I just we've always talked about this, that he really believes that Karachi can go back to being what it was in the very beginning, which was clubs
Yeah.
and bars and fun,
Oh,
women out in the open, comfortable and safe. And I've always been like, no, I don't believe that. And he has said that look at the number of artists now, look at the number of activists now. They were not there 20 years ago. And what I always get stuck on, which is what I'll say to you to poke your like brain a little bit,
yeah.
is that I know that we think we're making a huge difference. And I know that we think that there's so many more of us now. Um, that want to have the music festivals and want to have animal activism and all of these things. But I feel like we're such a small bubble, right? Because we're just in, the elite part of Karachi or the elite part of Pakistan. We're not the majority, right? Like there's a whole awam out there. So this is where I personally get discouraged. I'd love to hear how you feel as
Yeah.
an
Um,
optimist.
sure, sure. I mean, yes to everything you said. There, the bubble is real. I can liken it to I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we often say, even in the US, we are in a bubble, politically, otherwise. Um, Yet, coming back to Pakistan specifically, and however small the percentage of people are in relation to obviously a country so highly populated, even just take the city of Karachi, um, it is still something. It is still more than it's ever been. And so I think that that collective action needs to just keep going. Change does not happen, certainly not overnight. And really speaking, even in a generation, it's very rare. And yes, you know, there are plenty of things that we see happen where it just feels like, oh my God, we were on this trajectory to something great. And then something horrific happens, and it feels like all that work is undone and broken. But there was still an awareness planted prior to that breaking moment. And sometimes things do need to break multiple times to actually create it with the foundation that will hold it together, hopefully long term. And so I know that's a lot of like just analogy and this and that. What it's actually going to take, I can't claim to know because I'm not there. And I love when I'm there and I love being able to share my art there, but I also have to acknowledge I have the privilege of coming and going. So I never get to the place where I'm hitting that wall of frustration or otherwise, right? So I can't claim to know what is going to change, but even in the almost decade that I've been doing work consistently in Pakistan, even what I have seen in the sheer number of people through the conversations I get to have like this one, it is changing. I think the acknowledgement, I think the beauty of history is to learn from history. And we often look at only the bad parts of history. And it's important to look at that and say, let's not keep making those same mistakes. Sadly, humanity we're a little thick skulled when it comes to that. But I love that we're also, when you take especially Karachi, looking at that time where, people were out on the streets, walking late at night. There were not issues of security and safety. Women were, owning themselves, their style, their fashion, um, I think we do have to look to that time and actively keep, moving towards it versus away from it.
That makes
So,
sense.
yeah, again, it's not a tangible remedy, but I do feel like we can't throw our hands up.
You're right. That is very true. Can't give up.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also a matter of, for me, in any situation. You have to sort of meet the problem where it is, but you also have to backtrack to say, how do we prevent the problem from getting to this place? Both have to exist simultaneously. So even if we talk like education, right? We can rectify at the university level and say, oh, we're going to make sure we accept more students in universities. But really speaking, it's about access to education from a very young age, right? So we can take that and implement that to really, I believe, so many issues. It's not just saying, how do we course correct here? It's much sooner. How do we? So I do believe even something like societal behavior has to be normalized as far as the range of societal behavior that can and should exist has to exist even in those primary schools,
Yeah, makes sense.
right? Because that's where we're planting seeds of how even in a more binary dynamic, which let's just use that as an example. Even boys and girls are going to interact with one another, let alone accepting gender fluidity for what it could and should be. You know
Yeah,
what I
makes sense.
mean? So if we can teach our children, they're the ones who will actually make a difference. And they're also seeing the example of change in those that are older.
Okay,
That's
that
my
makes a
hope.
lot. I like that.
Yeah. So when I'm there, we'll come up with something to do in schools.
Yeah, that sounds good. I would love that.
Right? Why not? Why not? So, what is on the horizon for you in the near and far future?
Actually, I'm not entirely sure. I
Congratulations. That's awesome to own that.
I'm thinking I did talk to a few people in the government about trying to figure out a better waste disposal system here. Not just like a landfill for the trash, because you've been here, there's trash everywhere.
Mhm.
There's two things actually that I'm looking at. One, I want to do something in terms of again education in trash, burning the trash, burning plastic. People have piles of trash that they light on fire to get rid of it. Microplastics and fumes, bad. Second, living in trash, having it there. Why should I throw it in the trash can? I don't live in this random plot. It's okay if it's there. That sort of system, but how
Yeah.
can the government then better dispose of waste? What can we do? Do we have a recycling plant even somewhere? How is it functioning? That's what I'm looking at right now. I was told we don't have any sort of city system, so I feel like that's a very, very large project to undertake,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. But an
like that.
important one. And it has to start even at the micro to again impact the macro.
So that's the first thing. And the second thing I'm looking at, this is gonna be a little bit of a trigger warning for anyone listening, or I don't know if the radio will even allow whatever. But so recently, a video went viral of somewhere in Punjab, these two men had captured an eagle and they had tied him in a room, pulled his wings to opposite sides, and they were beating him or her. And I couldn't watch the whole video, so I really don't know what happened.
Mm,
I don't personally know any police in Punjab. I know a few, like I know one in Balochistan. We know people here, so we've been
mm.
able to capture people before. Just the citizens, just people in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I've been able to track down the guys, arrest them, save the animal. But in this case, I kept checking, I kept looking, I couldn't find anything. Um, and I was reading through the comments because I always want to figure out what's going on, like what is the mindset? Why? And somebody had said the eagle must have done something. The eagle must have bitten a child, or the eagle must have killed one of the livestock.
Mm,
And someone had argued that, yeah, but that's all animals know how to do
yeah.
and there's always been a history of farmers killing the coyote and whatever. And fine, if you really want to kill this eagle, do it. What is the torturing happening here?
Yeah.
Why are you tying up an animal and beating it with a rock?
Yeah.
You know, like stretching its body out. So
Mm,
that was the other aspect that I was like, where can I start? And you make a very, very good point. You start in the children, you start in childhood. How can I start in talking about empathy, really? Empathy for
yeah.
animals, empathy for women, because we, as a subcontinent, there's a huge history of torture. Killing and genocide is one thing. We torture our victims here. Where do we start there is another. These are two very big ideas that I'm looking at that I'm quite lost on right now, but trying to figure something out. Seeing if
Mm,
art, but yeah.
yeah. Wow. That is very powerful and certainly steep mountains to climb. But the fact that you're even, processing the how and the what, that's huge. That's huge. Let's take one final break here. Welcome back to Heartistry. This is Farah Yasmeen Shaikh, and today I've been speaking with Taabir Noorani, and it's just been such a lovely chance to get to know you, to hear about your approach to really so many aspects of life and your interaction with humans and beings in general. And yeah, I think it's just a really powerful conversation that I know I'm going to walk away with, really thinking a lot about just how we respond to the things that move us. Um, yeah, the what and the how. But so what I would love to do, Tavir, is ask you one of the questions I love to ask at the end of my conversations is really this concept of heartistry, is obviously the word heart and artistry put together. And for me, that's been about speaking with people that bring a passion, compassion, and commitment to whatever they're doing, income generating or not. And I think you have exemplified that in so many ways throughout this conversation, through your art, through your yogic practice, through your volunteerism, your humanitarian support of so many things. Um, and yet, I'm also curious to know if you are, whether as I'm talking about it now, or when you saw this word heartistry, what, if anything, it invoked for you?
Well, just the word.
The word, the concept, any of it.
So, it was, I mean, it immediately caught my eye, right? And when I looked at the account, when I looked at who was owning it, like whose idea this was, I was immediately like, okay, like it's a brown woman. Like
Yes.
I was like, you already know that she's gonna be like just because the thing about our women, what I love about women in America and Canada that are South Asian women that are actively doing something in this whole activist art, all of these regions, we're always just a little bit like we're always just a little bit like hippy dippy bohemian, and then there's always a combination of that and like a boss.
Oh
We
my
all
God, I love it. Yes.
always seem to combine those two so well. You'll always see this like powerful woman with her little jhumkas, like and then I went on the Heartistry podcast on Instagram and I started stalking it and it was just like beautiful, powerful woman after beautiful, powerful woman. And I was like, this is amazing and I should not be on this. Like I do not.
Oh, I beg to differ. Clearly, I did.
I was looking at it and I was like, head of this association, and then founder of that association. I was like, oh God, amazing. So I was
Yeah.
a big fan right away. And then I saw that you had a Noorani dance like situation going on, and I was like, this is amazing, like amazing.
Oh.
Immediately.
Well, like I said, as I said about Zulfikar and yourself, good people attract good people. And I think, the way you described South Asian women in North America, at least as the point of reference you gave, we're all a mirror of one another in one way or the other. And yeah, it's been really a pleasure to talk to you, to get to know you. I look forward to hopefully connecting in person when I am there.
Oh,
That would be amazing for all the reasons. Um, but this has been something special. So thank you.
thank you so much. This was really fun.
Yeah, see no reason to be nervous at all. Hold on one sec.